Why do animals fight? Why do they compete? What moves them to risk their lives? In the answers to these questions lie the reasons for existence, the keys to the survival of every animal that inhabits the Earth, from the tiniest insects to the most gargantuan mammals. With solutions as diverse as they are extraordinary, and to which all living beings on our planet must adhere, full of nuances, of actions. All this gives meaning, tension, and energy to the existence of each and every being. This is the fight for life. Although the reasons are very diverse, in reality, animals, like human beings, engage in conflict chiefly for 5 reasons. One reason is to achieve power, dominance, and supremacy. Many animal species, including humans, live in complex, structured societies. In groups of varying natures, all-powerful leaders make the most life-impacting decisions on everyone's behalf. The position of head of the clan is highly coveted. It usually comes with wide-ranging privileges in terms of eating, sleeping, and reproducing. Being human, baboon, or wolf is not easy. Wolves live in complex societies in which each individual must fight to achieve and maintain its position. It's a permanent and exhausting struggle. The sophistication and efficiency of wolf society has earned it the apex spot among Northern Hemisphere predators. This is how they can take down large prey such as wild boar and red deer. But once the prey has been caught, the power disputes begin. Wolves are extremely hierarchical animals. Each individual has its very specific rank, a fact that is never more clearly observed than when the pack eats. This is a pyramidal society with one absolute monarch, whose authority is rarely questioned, reigning at the top. So leaders look for allies within the pack, making clear who's in charge through a range of admonishments that include growls, snarls, and on occasions, physical altercations that may end with blood being drawn. Sometimes the most antagonistic individual, probably not well liked within the clan, ends up feeling the business end of the whole group's powerful canines. Amongst the large herbivores, the concept of dominance is gauged simply by force, and nowhere is this truer than on the African continent. More or less ritualized skirmishes decide who is the boss. African buffalo live in complex societies led by a group of dominant individuals. In order to achieve power, they must train and fight from when they are very young. The herd's future leaders will emerge from such adolescent scuffles. And so herds of African or Cape buffalo are led by a small coterie of males, all well acquainted with each other. The highest-ranking adult males lead in a kind of council of elders. This is the best way to survive a life lived at the mercy of the king of the savannah. Lion and buffalo, locked in an eternal conflict on the African plains. Two powerful societies forever engaged in their daily struggle. And often, the buffalo, with their fearsome bands of brothers, put the lions to flight. The clan of felines knows that discretion is the better part of valor when faced with a group of herbivore leaders on the charge. In some animal societies, the battle for dominance lasts literally a lifetime. From almost the moment you are born until the day you die. This is the case of chacma or Cape baboons. These primates form clans of dozens or even hundreds of individuals, all ruled over by one large male. No one dares challenge the position of leader unless they are very sure of themselves. That said, under the umbrella of the overlord's supremacy, young males are in a constant state of confrontation with the aim of climbing the primate social ladder. From very young, they confront each other, engaging in prolonged shoving matches and pursuits. These war games serve to test each other and establish relationships of dominance and, finally, prepare them in the fight to be boss. In baboon society, no one comes to power without the backing of a court of loyal followers. Physical strength clearly has a huge part to play in questions of hierarchy. A loser lies prostrate on the Pacific coast of Chile. A South American sea lion has lost his last fight, and in the process, his life. But exhaustion, rather than his rivals, has probably killed him. During the mating season, large male sea lions establish their little kingdoms on beaches among the rocks where they install their harems of females. To obtain such a prized territory, you have to fight off many rivals. His position of superiority is always at stake, and so during this time, he barely rests and never eats. Challengers put the commanders of the coastline to the test. All interlopers must be expelled if your lineage is to be maintained. Achieving and maintaining power is a never-ending question of struggles, alliances, and wars. Leaders have access to the best locations, the most nutritious food, and the best chances for their offspring. But leaders throughout the animal kingdom must not only defend their own status, but also the territory that they and their clan inhabit. Territory is the home, the place where animals rest, find food, and have their children. Many animals are very territorial. Each must define, protect, and defend their little kingdoms against invasion from outsiders. Their very survival depends on it. 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝘁𝗲𝗀, a genus of hummingbirds, bright and beautiful as emeralds, cute and small as toys, are in fact both as fast as lightning and extremely combative in temperament. All hummingbirds need super energy foods in large quantities, so a significant part of their day is spent searching for flowers from which to sip their sugary nectar. The small territory of the 𝗥𝗲𝗋 is a permanent, humming battlefield. The owner of each bit of space must expel its competitors over and over again to prevent its supplies of fuel being stolen. Fights to eject the freeloaders that invade territories and branches where they rest are not only incessant, they're far more violent than meets the naked eye. Far away, in another jungle in the heart of the Amazon region, the air throbs with a similar noise. The buzzing of bees, busy with their daily chores. Curiously, the bees have made their hive right up against a huge tropical anthill. However, it seems that bees and ants are friendly neighbors. That is, until something disturbs their peaceful coexistence. A monkey shaking the branches as it moves through them. But instead of the monkey up above, the ants set upon their unprepossessing insect neighbors, the bees. A Praetorian guard of bees stands firm against the first wave of ants, but the combat has only just begun. In an instant, a terrible fight to the death ensues. Thousands of ants against dozens of bees. The fight seems utterly one-sided, but the bees have a perfect strategy. A tight cordon of fighters mercilessly decapitates the advancing ants. The battle leaves hundreds of bodies on the ground. But the bees have once again saved their little piece of the forest. The air of Central America throngs with magnificent frigate birds, excellent flyers that live largely on the wing, snatching food from the surface of the sea. Frigate birds fly en masse, looking for food as they do so. They will fight over fish, and they reproduce in large, boisterous colonies. During the mating season, males look for easily visible places, and then, in groups of a dozen or more, put on a dazzling show for the females watching them from the sky. And the small land-based territory occupied by suitors becomes a curious little battlefield. With their scarlet throat pouches inflated and trembling like balloons, males attract the females flying above. But these colourful displays often also draw the eye and the beak of jealous neighbours. The attacker is literally trying to burst his rival's beautiful red bubble and so prevent the females from noticing him. But when under attack, magnificent frigate birds defend themselves magnificently. The attacker ends up being hooked and gets what he deserves from his determined neighbour. In no more than 1 square metre of territory, mating couples are decided, disputes resolved, battle joined, wars won and lost. A third reason for conflict between animals is what in human terms we call love. Attraction and reproduction are two very potent driving forces in the animal world. Intense, often breathtaking, and on many occasions very aggressive behavior is a common symptom. Flamingos come together for breeding and to participate in a series of spectacularly synchronized dances that help them channel the tension generated by reproductive passions, whilst at the same time form a defensive colony. But despite efforts to manage such an outpouring of energy in a civilized way, there are times when battle becomes unavoidable. In this case, one of the male hopefuls is attacked by a group of roustabout. The suitor has no choice but to flee. Far away, high up in the rugged mountains that tower over the Mediterranean forests, another conflict of interest begins with the onset of the colder days of autumn. On the sheer rocky outcrops of the Sierra de Gredos, Iberian ibex, Spanish wild goats, face deadly dangers every day. But right now, those risks are heightened. An urgent, new and cyclical question is added to the perils of living in their vertiginous mountain home. During the mating season, vertigo in the heights and vicious horns are the twin prongs of a daily dilemma. When in heat, males focus all their energy on driving away any rival. And that leads to more than just a bout of head scratching. They smash into each other in rutting contests that can last for hours. The Sierra shudders with the sound of the head-on collisions of rivals, blinded to all except the reproductive impulse. And yet, despite the ferocity of the fighting, there are never casualties, although maybe a fair few headaches. At the foot of the mountains, in Mediterranean home oak groves, as the amorous zeal of the goats abates, some very scandalous birds keep the flame of passion alight. Cranes. Common or Eurasian cranes spend the winter among the Iberian holm oaks, feeding on acorns and tender shoots. As winter starts to recede, it's time to think about returning to the north. It's also time for lovers and pretenders' tiffs. Their iconic, suggestive courtship dances take place against the backdrop of holm oaks. Males proudly display their plumage. They stretch their necks and trumpet loudly. The most ardent males noisily face up to each other. The tension increases. Females look on without wishing to seem too interested. At the climax of the show, the males finally jump and attack each other. On the beaches of the Valdez Peninsula in Argentina, southern elephant seals rest. They spend only a couple of months each year on land in order to reproduce. Only a few males are able to maintain a harem. They do so only once in their lives, so at that time, they must fight without rest. Each male must defend his group of fertile females. Judging by their appearance, male elephant seals would seem to be capable of the fiercest combat in the natural world. In reality, however, determination is the most important thing. Shouting and pushing intimidates most competitors. And it certainly helps if you can really throw your weight around to back up your verbal threats. Titanic males weighing up to 4 tons smash into each other to establish priority when it comes to passing on their genes. And once he has driven off his rivals, a male will focus on his females in a display of surprisingly tender affection. Love, sex, violence, an explosive recipe, and one not only seen in Hollywood. Black-flanked rock wallabies swarm over the ancient rocky outcrops of Australia. These little kangaroo-like marsupials are usually very peaceful, until the script turns to sex and ignites their passions, that is. The mating season for rock wallabies is a free-for-all boxing match. No rights or rules in this bout. The gloves are off, and anything goes. Flying kicks, punches, slaps and scratches, and one male emerges victorious. In a no-limit street fight like this, serious injuries are incurred. The loser can come off very badly indeed. As well as sex, power and territory, in terms of pure survival, the most elemental fight is to obtain food. But not all warriors are fearsome carnivores. Dinosaurs still roam the rocky Canary Island of Tenerife, or at least their modern-day cousins do. Gran Canaria giant lizards can reach up to 80 centimeters in length. But despite their terrifying and primitive appearance, they're almost exclusively vegetarians. Summer here is extremely hot. The sun scorches the lava fields the island is formed from, and the vegetation dries up. The scarcity of resources is the trigger for a pitched battle for succulent, hydrating fruit. These fights are often not particularly well matched. Larger individuals are usually stronger and faster. In this setting, reptile Goliath invariably defeats reptile David. The larger lizards harass and chase their smaller cousins, and so can get at the most nourishing portions of food. The struggles between species are limitless when it comes to feeding. The Atacama Desert is a place for only the hardiest of ascetics. Even the parched remains of a dead guanaco can be a banquet for the desert's few opportunists. 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗀, or Andean fox. The desiccated skeleton of the guanaco has barely any flesh left on it. Nevertheless, this is an unburied treasure in the middle of the desert. It will provide enough protein to keep the fox fed for several days. But this 𝗥𝗲𝗋 is not the only one in the neighborhood. Several relatives want to join the feast. The problem is establishing the correct order at the table. The hungriest and strongest enjoy the food first. For the concept of finders-keepers to prevail, the finder has no choice but to defend the loot from the other foxes. The discoverer's peaceful meal is over. Before the fox can continue eating, it has to remind everyone of the hierarchy at mealtime. And this sometimes leads to dangerous fights. The fifth and final motivation in the fight for survival is the family. Family is everything for many animals. The survival of each individual depends on the family, and the family itself depends on the bonds that unite all its components. It really is a case of all for one and one for all in conflicts that test the strength of the family and the strategies it employs in the fight to survive. Wild boar live in clans made up of mature females, the great matriarchs of the species, young individuals and infants. In these close-knit communities, they roam the countryside and forests in search of food. Although as adults they're respected for their ferocity in battle, the young are often in the crosshairs of large predators such as wolves, lynx, and eagles. A tasty suckling piglet is a temptation for any hunter. For this reason, the powerful matriarchs are ever vigilant. At the first sign of danger, a warning bellow puts the entire herd on alert and on the hoof. One sow goes head-to-head with the wolf, and the herd is saved. And not only are the piglets saved, but she even manages to emerge victorious herself. In Patagonia, tens of thousands of Magellanic penguins nest on the beaches of the Valdez Peninsula. It's a massed land invasion in the form of a camped beachhead of small trenches where the penguins make their nests, lay their eggs, and raise their broods. Coming together to form breeding colonies offers the penguins protection, but at the same time causes conflict between families. Bitter disputes arise over partners, nesting spots, and even offspring. The tension in the colony is as palpable as it is audible. Clashes between neighboring couples are frequent. Rivals will lash out at each other and even duel with daggers drawn. Their sharp, powerful beaks are dangerous. And sometimes even fatal. And yet, despite such tragedy, many penguins manage to raise their chicks. They provide warmth while they're small, with both parents taking turns to feed their precious charges. And so, the vast majority will survive. On the same beaches, elephant seals have a very intense infancy. Their mothers will take care of them for just a month, but in that time, their milk is so nutritious that each day the youngsters gain between 4 and 5 kilos of fat. Theirs is a short and happy childhood that abruptly comes to an end after 30 days, when their mothers return to the sea to replenish their strength and never come back. The abandoned pups gather together near the water's edge, creating self-governing creches where they spend their time playing and familiarizing themselves with the sea. And in that sea, close by, other mammals look after their offspring for several years in family groups that remain very close their whole lives. Orcas, killer whales, with the females looking after and teaching their offspring to feed themselves and also to hunt as a team. The orcas take advantage of the moment when the young elephant seals approach the shoreline alone to teach some hunting techniques. This is the most crucial moment in the lives of both species. Orcas learn to hunt from their mothers. Elephant seals have to learn to flee or defend themselves alone. The killer whales have the experience and support of the family, and that drives them on. The young and inexperienced elephant seal has everything to lose. The orca calves have the opportunity to catch a large prey essential for their continued survival, now and in the future. But fortunately, so many seal pups are born each season that the sacrifice of a few allows the rest to survive. The struggle between life and death that the seal pups face symbolizes the quintessential balance in nature. Every animal, each species has its own particular tools and strategies to enable it to meet its vital needs and satisfy its desires. Life is an unending series of events impelled and governed by competition, guerrilla fighting, or open warfare. In the battle for territory, supremacy, family, food and sex, everyone has their own reason